Welcome to this recorded webinar on Patent Search Basics on ProQuest Dialog. I'm Ted Karen from the ProQuest Dialog Help Desk, and I appreciate your interest in this topic. So let's get started. We'll talk first about some very basic patent issues like what is a patent and how patents work, because this will help us to understand the reasons for doing a patent search and what we're looking for and why. And then we can do a better patent search. Then we'll review the list of patent databases on ProQuest Dialog. We offer 40 of them, and we'll look at some of them in detail. This will help us decide which databases will serve us best for particular kinds of searches that we may have to do. After that, we'll walk through some actual patent searches using each of the search forms and interfaces in ProQuest Dialog. Here is one definition of a patent. It's from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. A patent is a government license. It's for a limited period of time, and it gives the patent owner the right to keep others from making, selling, or using the invention. And that's the important part of it, because after all, you can invent something and sell it without getting a patent. The purpose of getting a patent is to keep other people from using your idea. Patents, as you may know, are a huge business in the U.S. and elsewhere. For many large companies, their intellectual property portfolio is their single most valuable asset. But patents are also interesting, I think, for what they show us about inventors and about people. For every invention you find in the patent databases, and some of them are very unusual, there's some person or some company who thought that this idea would be their ticket to fame and fortune. So I like to think that in searching the patent databases, you can explore not only the worlds of business and technology, but also the limits of human imagination. This image here, for example, is from a patent called Combination Vacuum Cleaner and Artificial Dog. The idea was that if your dog is afraid of the vacuum cleaner, well, what you need is a vacuum cleaner cleverly disguised as a dog. So it's a stuffed dog with a vacuum cleaner built into it. This is what I mean about the patent databases. Everything you find in there was someone's vision for the next big idea. So what kinds of things can you patent? The USPTO, for example, says it can be a process, a machine, something manufactured, or a composition. That would include chemical compounds and pharmaceuticals. It goes so far as to say that these subjects take in practically everything that is made by man and the processes for making them. But there are limits. Notice that this definition does include the requirements that the invention has to be something new and useful. It's often said that to be patented, your idea must be novel, useful, and non-obvious. This, by the way, is a Valentine that was created by the U.S. Patent Office. The usefulness requirement nowadays is almost taken for granted. This is a patent for a novelty ski hat. It's kind of a variation on Steve Martin's arrow through the head gag, and it makes it look like you have a ski pole impaled through your head. And the patent says that its usefulness lies in producing amazement and wonder of how an individual can live with a ski pole going through the center of his head, unquote. So the usefulness test sets the bar pretty low, and the patent examiner will mainly be applying the novelty test. And it's your job as a patent searcher to find out whether or not the patent idea is new, or if it is already out there somewhere, because if it is, you're going to have trouble getting a patent. Looking again at the USPTO site, and other patent authorities are similar, your invention cannot be patented if it is already patented, or if it was described in a published patent application. That's here as number 2, and that one should be pretty obvious. But you also cannot get a patent if your idea was described anywhere else that's available to the public, or if it's already being sold or used. And these two things together make up what patent searchers call prior art. Is the idea already out there, either as a patent or as anything else that's publicly available? And in my opinion, these two things show why ProQuest Dialog is an especially valuable tool for prior art searching, because you can search both for patents all around the world and also search for all kinds of non-patent literature in science, engineering, biomed, also in the news and learned papers like dissertations, all kinds of articles, all on one platform using ProQuest Dialog. So the test in plain words is whether the idea is already out there, and the PTO says examples could include presentations at meetings, trade shows, lectures, YouTube videos, websites. The European Patent Office says that prior art could include a prehistoric cave painting or something that doesn't even physically exist yet, as long as it has been described. They even use the words anything can be prior art. So when you're searching for whether something can be patented, you want to cast your net wide. You want to search both broad and deep. And we have all kinds of databases that you can use for that. But today we're going to concentrate on searching for patents. So let's take a look at the patenting process. This chart is simplified, but it shows how you start out by doing your own novelty search or prior art search. That's where ProQuest Dialog comes in. Then you draft your application and file it with the Patent Office. The patent examiner does his own search. Hopefully they don't find anything that you missed. Then there may be some correspondence back and forth between the applicant and the Patent Office. Some changes might be required. These steps are sometimes referred to as office actions. And if all goes well, you'll get your patent. And it's not shown here, but in most cases, before the actual patent comes out, the Patent Office will publish your application as what's sometimes called a pre-grant publication, or PGP, or simply a published application. And those records are also a part of what you'll find in the patent databases on ProQuest Dialog. And that's the basic process. Sometimes there are variations on this. In the US, for example, if you don't want to start out with a fully developed patent application, you can file what's called a provisional application. That's a little quicker and easier to prepare, and it sort of plants your flag. It proves that you had the idea. But if you start with a provisional application, you'll need to follow that up, I believe within a year, with a regular patent application. And it's usually about 18 months after your regular U.S. patent application is filed that it gets published as a pre-grant publication. So, what does a patent record include? There's what's called a bibliographic section, with things like the title, the application and publication numbers with the dates, the assignee, or in other words, the owner or the applicant, and the inventor's name. There are a number of class codes used to identify the type of technology involved. These can be used for searching as well. Then there's the actual text, which will include an abstract or a short summary. The claims, which is the part that legally describes exactly what it is you're trying to patent. And there are detailed specifications which expand on all that. Each of these areas can be searched separately or in any combination using the field codes in ProQuest Dialog. There may be images and a patent family, which we'll talk about in a bit, but basically it's a group of patents that are related to each other, either because they're basically the same patent in different countries, or because they share some, if not all, of the same application numbers, cited as priority, or previous applications that the applicant is relying upon in addition to the current application. And there may be legal status information showing things like if the patent has been reassigned, bought and sold to a new owner, or if other things have happened to it legally, like it's been terminated for failure to pay a maintenance fee. Some of our databases have all of this information, and some have just parts of all this, so we'll look at those databases in a moment. I mentioned patent families a minute ago. Often you'll want to see not just a particular patent, but this whole group of patents that are related to it. And the ways that patent families are put together vary a little bit depending on the database. So let's move on to look at the patent databases on ProQuest Dialog. There are 40 of them, as I mentioned. Some are kind of all-purpose or family-based, like Impodoc and Derwent. Some focus on just one country, like the full-text databases. And some have very special purposes. Derwent Patent Citations Index, for example, is especially for finding which older patents or which articles were cited either by the applicant or the examiner when a particular patent was applied for. Or you may want to know which patents came along later where the applicant cited that patent in a new application. Those are sometimes called backward and forward citations. And you can do that kind of search in INPADOC or in some other databases, but Derwent Patent Citations Index is specially designed for this. There's Lit Alert, which is the only database where you can find out if any lawsuits have been filed in the U.S. federal courts concerning any U.S. patents. U.S. trademark lawsuits are also covered here. And IMS Patents Focus is a great database if you're searching for information about pharmaceutical patents. It lets you look them up by the trademark or generic names, for example, which is the kind of information not found in the actual patents, as well as detailed info about the status of related drug patents across many countries around the world. The company that makes this database stopped adding to it very recently, but it's still a great resource. And now let's look at some of the more widely used or general-purpose databases in a little more depth. Derwent World Patents Index at one time was the single most widely used patent database that we have. It's very good for term searching because it has abstracts that are written by the Derwent people. They're written by specialists and they're written for searchers using the kind of language that a searcher is likely to use in looking for these patents. Their family information is put together manually by these experts so that what you end up with is families that are essentially the same invention, not just related more broadly, but really the same thing. Derwent also has a number of special indexing fields unique to that database. You should be aware, however, that this database does not have legal status information, so this is not the place to look to see if your patent has been reassigned or if it's been marked expired. It also does not have full text. INPADOC has the broadest country coverage of any patent database. It now has about 110 countries that are covered. For about half of those, it has the legal status information as well, which is often quite detailed. The family information can be found in INPADOC two different ways. It gives you what's called the EPO simple families, and that is the group of patents that share all of the same priorities. Those are going to be very, very similar to each other. But INPADOC will also show you a broader version of the complete patent family, where perhaps only one priority application number is shared. This will show you, let's say, not only identical twins and triplets, but also cousins and second cousins, if you really want to get a broad look at a patent family. This database, however, is not optimal for term searching because it doesn't have the full text, and for most countries, it doesn't have the claims. So this is a great database if you're searching by something like company name, or if you're searching by the class numbers, then it's perfect. This database can also be very cost effective because once you've done your search, you can either decide to download all of the patents that you get, or you can reduce it to just one patent for each family by clicking a button. We also have full text patent databases for some 32 countries. And these are very flexible databases because they do have the full text from all kinds of countries in English. So you can do an English language search and get patents from Korea, for example. These databases do very often have the legal status information, and they have patent family information. So you can search all kinds of different ways and get all kinds of different information from these databases. Here is a list of the countries. And as you can see, these include not only familiar major patent authorities, but also quite a few countries that we don't think of ordinarily as major patenting authorities. But keep in mind, if your idea for a patent has already come out as a published application in Norway or in Luxembourg, then you have a problem with your prior art search. It doesn't matter that it didn't come out in the US or Great Britain. If it was published in one of these countries, then It's an old idea, and you need to know about that. So these databases are very useful in your prior art searching. For U.S. patents, we actually offer a choice of 2 full-text databases. One is called U.S. Patents Full Text, and it's similar to the databases we just looked at. But we also have a database called IFI Claims. And despite its name, it's not only the claims of a patent, it has the full text of U.S. patents. It also has detailed legal status information, and it lets you search these patents in several ways that just cannot be done in other databases. For example, one of its functions is called probable assignee searching. This has to do with the fact that when published applications first come out, they're very often not in the name of the company. They're in the name of the inventor. So in other databases, you can search for patents for a company, and you won't get these records. But in IFI Claims, you will get those hits. You can also limit your searches in IFI Claims by the status of a patent. You can tell the search engine that you want only patents that are active, that haven't been expired yet. Or maybe you just want to get patents that are still in the pipeline. They're at the stage of being published applications, but they're not granted yet. You can limit your results to just those very easily in this database. This database does not have patent family information, but it's otherwise a terrific choice if your concentration is on U.S. patent searching. And with that, let's go into ProQuest Dialog and take a look at some actual searches.